Chelsea's Chilwell chase, PSG may have ruined the transfer market again, City are swapping young for old, a transfer roundup and this week's great debate will come up in the next few minutes as I'm your host Matt Froelich, you are the Onefootballers and this is the Daily News. So first up, and apparently Chelsea are really interested this time and it's serious, according to latest reports, in signing Ben Chilwell from Leicester. Now first off, you may be thinking Leicester in a better position, they're definitely more likely to play Champions League football. I'm not saying Chelsea won't, but Leicester in with a much better chance currently sitting in third position. So why on earth would he move? Well, there's a lot of money that's going to be involved, and personally I think in the long run Chelsea may be better off than Leicester. Leicester seem to be going in peaks and troughs, like having the odd good season or two and then sort of falling back down again. Historically, Chelsea are going to be in and around the Champions League places and in and around the trophy hunt for a lot more frequent time than Leicester City are. Of course, based on this season, he'll probably stay at Leicester, but the other thing that is going to be a stumbling block, although Chelsea are notoriously good at doing this, is getting over the amount of money that they're going to have to pay for a left back. Now, 85 million is the amount quoted. Personally, I think that's way too much for Chilwell. I'm not saying it's not worth it. He's really good, and he's definitely, as Frank Lampard has identified, a massive step up from the likes of Emerson and Marcus Alonso in the left-back area for Chelsea. He's also young, he's English, he definitely fits with the whole theme and the whole culture that Lampard is creating at Chelsea, and I think it'd be a great move. 85 million though? Kind of seems like a lot. Apparently Chelsea are waiting to see what the effects of the coronavirus pandemic are going to do to the transfer market, although coming up in just a moment's time I'll tell you why it's probably going to be absolutely nothing. Anyway, I can't see him paying that much money and I can't see Leicester letting him go, but who really knows what's going to happen? Chelsea have proved to be a powerful enemy in the transfer market. I mean, they already took N'Golo Kante and Danny Drinkwater off of Leicester, so maybe they'll take one of their stars again. But moving on from that and talking about ruining the transfer market, PSG have done it again. They've just completely blown everyone out of the water with the signing of Mauro Icardi. Now, this is going to take a bit of explaining. Basically, in 12 days' time, Timo Werner's release clause expires with RB Leipzig, meaning that the £49 million that any club could walk into the club and pay straight up and then be able to talk to Timo Werner will no longer happen. So, obviously, the good news for Leipzig is that after this, they can charge more. And for the clubs that wanted to buy him, mainly Liverpool, who are really interested in him, well, they were hoping that once this expiry has happened, they'll be able to talk to Leipzig and maybe negotiate a lower price because, as you mentioned before, teams are being affected and may need a little bit more money than normal because of the COVID pandemic. Wrong. So what PSG went and did was sign Mauro Icardi for £50 million. So not only is he 3 years older, in my opinion, not as good as Timo Werner, but also doesn't have as much near potential as Timo Werner does. They've basically now set the bar at 50 million. There's no way that Leipzig would look at that transfer and be like, yeah, we'll sell our star striker Werner for less than 50. So even if the clause runs out, they're going to now want more. Obviously, that's going to annoy Liverpool. No one else really cares apart from Liverpool fans. But it's going to mean that Timo Werner has got to go for more than Icardi. That would just make sense. And if he goes for more, then someone else will be like, oh, well, if Werner's going for 50 to 60, my striker should go for 60 to 70. So basically, all the transfers are going up because PSG once again have bid and bought a player way out of his price range. Anyway, they obviously did it with Neymar, but we're going to overlook that. Anyway, I'm not so sure that it will extend to the whole transfer market. Like I mentioned before, there's no way that you could draw a comparison between like Werner and Ben Chilwell and say, yeah, he's worth 85 because Icardi was worth 50 and then Werner was worth 60. I'm not sure it's going to stretch around that kind of price, to that kind of position, but there are a few hot strikers that could be on the move, including Griezmann as well, Lautaro Martinez. So you never quite know how this is going to play out. All we know is, thank you PSG for once again throwing some money in out where it really didn't need to be. Anyway, moving on to Manchester City, who bizarrely enough seem to be swapping the young for the old. Not quite the other way around. So first off, Barcelona are interested in re-signing Eric Garcia, the centre-back at Manchester City. But if they do let him go, regardless of whether they let him go or not, there's apparently some real determination from the club that they want to bring in Leonardo Bonucci at 33 years old from Juventus. Don't get me wrong, brilliant defender. Really good defender, definitely has a lot of quality, a lot of experience, and is still performing at a pretty good level for Juventus. But moving into the future, is this going to help Manchester City? I mean, sure, Bonucci would be the best fit to play alongside Aymeric Laporte, ahead of Garcia, ahead of Otamendi, John Stones, Fernandinho when he's pushed into centre-back. That's absolutely fine. But looking into the future, really? He's probably good for 1 or 2 seasons. And imagine if those 1 or 2 seasons City aren't in the Champions League. I mean, on top of this, I'm not sure Juventus are going to want to sell him. They already made that mistake of selling him to AC Milan a few years ago and then buying him back a year later on a much higher wage. So I can't really see this one happening. And if they do, it's not possibly the smartest move from Manchester City. I mean, what on earth are Barcelona offering for a young defender that's going to be so mind-blowing that Manchester City are desperate for that kind of money? I don't know. There's no way they're going to be making a bid of more than like 20 million for him. Surely not. Bonucci's going to cost more than that anyway. For me, this rumour doesn't quite make sense, especially if they were to get rid of Garcia. If they're to keep him and be like, okay, you can play second fiddle to Bonucci and then he's going to slowly fade out the first team and Garcia comes through, fine. But swapping the two doesn't quite fit in my book. So next up, in a quick roundup of the rest of the day's transfer news, where if Inter Milan let Lautaro Martinez go, they're looking at Alexander Lacazette as a potential replacement. Spurs and Everton are set to battle it out for £18 million rated midfielder Matthias Vecino from Inter Milan. Raja Nainggolan wants to go back to Roma, his former club, and will take a massive wage cut to do so. And lastly but not least, Udinese and Serie A have offered Newcastle's Matty Longstaff an incredible 5-year deal, raising his wages from just £850 a week to £30,000 a week. So lastly but not least, we come to this week's great debate. This is where I pose a question for all of you guys in the comment section. And this week, with the return of the Premier League ever so close, we're going to be discussing the best and worst signings of the Premier League this season. For me, the worst, Joelinton. There, straight up. Bought him in for 40-odd million for Hoffenheim. He scored 1 goal and he's been absolutely useless. And if this Newcastle takeover happens, you can expect he'll be one of the first ones out the door and a brand new striker will be in at St James's Park. And talking of strikers, my best signing of the season goes to Danny Ings. Now, yes, he was on loan at Southampton from Liverpool. Then they made it a permanent signing last summer, so technically this does count. I'm not having any of it if you say it doesn't. 15 goals this season has definitely been a massive bright spark in what's been a up and down season for Southampton, and I just think he's really good to see him back to full fitness. And if anyone's making a late shout to be in the Euro squad for England, even though it is next summer, Danny Ings is definitely your man. The same thing can also be said for Raul Jimenez with the loan and being bought permanently. He's also done brilliantly at Wolves. So there you have it. That is all from me for today's Daily News. Let me know your answers to the great debate and your thoughts on the rest of the news. Whilst you're at it, smash the like button and click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later.